The iceberg.
In the early stages of this effort, all or most operations should be geared towards simply growing the collective and codifying our aims so as to create a network which emanates confidence and cohesion. Then, after a network is formed and all begins to look less like a couple of cosplayers jerking off to their own self-perceived coolness and more like a stable collective, then will we be in a better condition to coordinate and concoct a cohesive plan built around a particular focus. It may be a while before we ever get any sense of the rate at which these ideals are spreading among the population, and many years might come and go in relative silence before coming to discover that our influence has permeated society, and all the offices of the world are now filled with our kind, a kind which is committed to the health of humanity over all else. With that said, Comprachicos constitutes a veritable iceberg, and you should derive much comfort from that fact. For even though we may at times feel ourselves to be working alone toward this goal so vast, that is far from being the case, and it is my hope that the banner of Comprachicos can tear down that discouraging illusion of aloneness altogether, thus providing the mindful ones with the ultimate encouragement, which is the knowledge that our battle is anything but futile, and that thousands of others are working in each moment, if quietly so, toward the self-same goal of health. Comprachicos seeks to provide the public with a new social archetype and a banner under which to organize, and this I view as being its most important function, notwithstanding all else that it provides in the way of tools and techniques whereby to tackle this grand social objective. Comprachicos seeks to provide the public with the assurance that their good deeds are being counted and compounded, rather than falling through the cracks. In earlier paragraphs, I spoke about how we are to ascend the ladders of society so as to install ourselves within positions from which we may effect real change and influence among the masses. This implies a complex and sometimes slow-moving process, although that isn't to say that we must stand by and wait to get started. After all, this text is not meant only for those of us on the ground, and we must do all that we can to see that it gets into the hands of those in influential positions. Every one of us knows someone in a position of power and influence, even if that simply means working at an advertising agency or teaching at a college campus. We all know someone. And the reason why people aren't acting on these intuitive and valued principles is not because they lack widespread appeal and fail to resonate with our population. It is because it feels futile to attempt as much from within our disorganized landscape, which seems overrun by the cold and unmatured. And you must know that such divisions will not be limited to agitated vicenarians in trenchcoats, and may just as easily resemble middle-aged executives meeting after office hours to discuss the social ramifications of a new product or policy. Our ranks will be as diverse as the population itself, reflecting the full scope of human creativity and intention. What can these people of influence do to aid our undertaking? The options are as multitudinous as the occupations in our midst. A most simple way to apply these principles to our work is to adjust our criteria of what is and isn't acceptable, learning to view all things through the lens of the effect that it bears on the psycho-spiritual health of humanity, rather than seeing everything in relation to the profit and popularity that it generates. Our goal as Comprachicos should not be to capitalize upon mindless trends, but to steer and generate new trends which inspire a healthier standard. So once we can retrain ourselves to perceive and to judge all things through that lens, we become better equipped for all that this campaign entails. Are you an author of young adult novels? Perhaps then, you should consider removing that unnecessary bit from the story that seems to glorify abusive behaviors and could leave impressionable readers susceptible to harm and abuse via romanticization, and instead use your talent not to glorify the ill, but to spearhead a healthier trend which introduces a new dynamic and provides the population with a healthier view of relationships. Don't consider it as an impediment, but as a creative challenge. Are you a school teacher? There are countless ways in which these principles can be worked into not only your method of delivery, but also your behavior toward your students, and all of this can be done without any type of indoctrination or underhanded tactics. After all, We are not trying to convert anyone to some religion or convince anyone of some unnatural ideology. This is about nothing more than improving the outcome of our species and its well-being via the encouragement of awareness and critical thinking. And here's the thing about the ongoing attempts by our government to oust critical thinking from schools. There is no reason why a teacher cannot slip these lessons into their delivery, even in the case where it is not emphasized within the curriculum itself. And this is something that can absolutely be achieved without raising any alarms, since despite the scarcity of critical thinking within our society, it retains an inherent attractiveness, as does the concept of liberty. Are you a politician or other government official? Fight to increase focus on and funding for mental health and similar avenues. And I'm not talking about the damn pharmaceutical industry, nor am I talking about the endless amount of masturbatory studies that live and die on a cold office shelf without ever being applied to the real, everyday lives of 7 billion people. Here I am talking about the preventative more than the reactive, and it's up to you to figure out what that means. Are you a developer of games and/or apps? Create an interactive world imbued with psychological utility, which is not mean to swallow people up into a fantasy and deprive them of their taste for reality, but the very opposite, equipping and encouraging their minds for the life that awaits them. Aim to enhance their emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and desire through the creative shifting of associations. Now, I'm trying to avoid referencing specific products and companies, but not so long ago, we did see a craze involving a certain monster catching app that encouraged millions of individuals, children and adults alike, to go out and explore the world, which had now been imbued with life and incentive by way of technological recontextualization. And I look to this as a fine example of what could be achieved, though hardly a ceiling. Augmented reality, on its own, is a fascinating matter, particularly for how it can be used to enhance our experience of the mundane and improve our investment in reality, ironically so. Therefore, I would be interested in seeing Comprachicos make use of this technology, potentially as a mythopoetic aid. I won't go on and on. Endless are the possibilities, the opportunities. If you want a more thorough example of what I am talking about, then look no further than this very document, in which I've more or less managed to convince you that self-awareness is badass. It's about incentivization. It's about recontextualization. Not everything which benefits our humanity must taste like spongy, unseasoned tofu. In the modern age, wherein our insecurity has mutated into an obsession with fame and influence, the modern creator is compelled more toward giving the masses what they want than what they need, and the earth is overtaken thus by mercenaries and enablers, doing as they must to support themselves in this increasingly unsupportable sphere of being, even where it means increasing, rather than satisfying or diminishing, the needs of the people. We see it with social media and the entertainment industry in general, which, apparently, care only about keeping their viewers and shirk all conscience along the way. Wherefore our youth are knowingly dragged into facetious slums of depression and lust so insatiable. Nothing exists in isolation, neither man nor act. Nothing enters the stream of life in the absence of effects, ripples, ramifications. All things occur within a chain, and this applies likewise to the media and entertainment industry, wherein the popularity of a singular endeavor, be it inherently positive or negative, signals to the environment, and others mount the craze to capitalize on that popularity, thus leading to the rapid normalization of whatever be the act. And it is a horrible, cannibalistic chain of events that regularly pays zero thought to the effect that it will have on our species. It is of foremost importance that we throttle this sick narrative, quashing the harmful and toxic romanticism that is formed and is still forming upon the damp surface of this ill society, and supplanting it with a more healthy narrative, which gives us a tangible means by which to both understand and value our own lives, and the decisions that we make, and the relationships in which we invest, and the way in which we spend our very limited time upon this weird damn earth.